And now, Democrats 5 minutes after that initial realization sunk in.
Wait, Arlen Specter's a Democrat now? A Democrat? Isn't that kind of a stretch?
As the Republican Party has moved farther and farther to the right, I have found myself increasingly at odds with the Republican philosophy and more in line with the philosophy of the Democratic Party. The party has shifted very far to the right. The stimulus vote was a schism. And I used some language from domestic relations law, irreconcilable conflict. I have to make a calculation as to whether it's possible, realistic, to fight for the moderate wing of the Republican Party in Pennsylvania. And I do not think it's realistic. It's bleak. They don't make any bones about their willingness to lose the general election if they can purify the party.
How to deal with your critics. See, you just concede their point, and then you destroy them with it.
And for the people who are Republicans to sit by and allow them to continue to dominate the party, there ought to be a rebellion. There ought to be an uprising. Republicans didn't rally to Wayne Gilchrist in Maryland. He was beaten by the Club for Growth on the far right. Republicans didn't rally to the banner of Joe Schwartz in Michigan. And he was beaten by conservatives in the Club for Growth. The Club for Growth challenged Link Chafee. Remember Link Chafee? They made him spend all his money in the primary and he lost the general.
Joining us now is former Republican Senator Lincoln Chafee of Rhode Island. As you just heard from the newest Democrat in the Senate, Arlen Specter. Mr. Chafee is no longer in the Senate. He's now a visiting fellow at Brown University. Senator Chafee, thank you so much for joining us. Do you think that the Republican Party will change, that it will become more tolerant of the moderates in its midst, or do you feel like the wilderness is still dark and deep?
Well, I left the Republican Party ultimately after considering for a long time that exact question. Is it going to change? And I ultimately decided, no, the party's not going to change. And so I disaffiliated, became an independent. Well, Senator Specter was calling them for a rebellion, but ultimately I think that it's going to become not a viable national party. That's what I foresee for the Republican Party.
It's true that Arlen Specter flipping parties, in theory, puts the Democrats one contested Minnesota Senate seat away from getting what they want in Congress, even in the event of a Republican filibuster. But to beat a filibuster, what Democrats need are 60 votes. Everyone voting the same way, not just 60 Democrats. If Democrats don't vote with their party, it doesn't matter how many seats they've got. What they're getting when they get Arlen Specter is another conservatem, a conservative Democrat who isn't necessarily pledged to the party's agenda.
I will not be an automatic 60th vote. I have always agreed with John Kennedy that sometimes party asks too much, and if the Democratic Party asks too much, I will not hesitate to disagree and vote my independent thinking.
Just look at Arlen Specter's positions on a few key big D Democratic issues. For example, how will Democrat Arlen Specter vote on the nomination of Dawn Johnson, President Obama's pick to head the Office of Legal Counsel? She's currently being blocked by Republicans in the Senate.
I'm opposed to the nominee for Assistant Attorney General in the Office of Legal Counsel, Dawn Johnson.
Okay. How about the party's important union legislation, the Employee Free Choice Act?
I think it is a bad bill, and I'm opposed to it and would not vote to invoke cloture.
Kind of sounds a lot like Arlen Specter Republican, doesn't it? And of course, this is the same senator who consistently voted against setting timetables in Iraq, who just this month voted against President Obama's budget, and who, even after making that critical crossover vote in favor of the stimulus, also voted for the GOP's mega anti-stimulus 5-year spending freeze. So losing Specter is clearly a big loss for the Republican Party. The question now, though, is whether it is the Democrats' gain.